And we're live. Welcome, everyone. There's many of you joining us in the Etherpad and on the page, and as you can see in the call here. My name is Amira, and I'm from Mozilla. And my co-host today is... Oh, Christina, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, so hi, I'm Christina. I'm a new face to Mozilla. I've only been with the team since last September, but I'm very happy to be here. And if you follow at MozTeach or the newsletters or anything like that, you've heard my name. So welcome, everyone.
Nice. Thank you, Christina. So I would love to just welcome everyone for being here with us, both live and in the call and the Etherpad, or watching us and joining us at a later time. We're really, really excited to introduce the new Mozilla Learning Community Call. And when I say new, it's something we've done many times in the past, so we're reinventing and are really excited to relaunch the community call with all of our community members from around the world. And every month we're really excited to be actually celebrating and be looking at the intersections of teaching the web with various pieces and programs. And this month, given that it was International Women's Day and we're celebrating the Women's History Month, there was a lot of conversation and action and stuff going around specifically focused on women and girls. So we thought what better way to start this call than actually to jump right in and talk about teaching women and girls and celebrating the programs that many of our community members and others are running that actually look specifically at teaching women and girls. And so this is monthly, so this is happening today, and we're going to share details for the next one later on in the call. And I know many of you are in the Etherpad, so a hearty welcome to you that are joining us. Thank you for filling out your name, your location, your Twitter handles. It's great to see so many familiar faces in here and some new ones. And I noticed that some of you have already been jumping in on telling us what you celebrated for International Women's Day. And if you celebrate something within this month, feel free to drop it in there as well. I would love to see resources or names of people who you idolize or you think have been doing great things for International Women's Day, or you think are mentors within the space. Really just share any links you have, because I think that it's great to share more information that others can look at and celebrate together. So I will be looking at the Mad Lib throughout the call, so if you haven't done it yet, feel free to do it throughout the time or even afterwards so others can be able to view it later on. So that was a lot. I'm going to pass the mic to Christina to tell you a little bit more about logistics for the Etherpad and the call.
Yeah, so if you're new to using Etherpad, don't worry, it's really easy to get the hang of it, and I was definitely nervous the first time that I used it, so I definitely understand. But the general explanation is there's a box in the upper right-hand corner to add your name and to choose a color, and then the larger notes box on the left will show your comments that are highlighted in your color so that everyone knows who is typing what, and that's a great way to engage in the discussion. And then there's a third box on the lower right-hand side. That's an area for live chat. Feel free to discuss, the topics that the speakers are engaging in with your fellow viewers. You can also ask questions in the chat area or in the notes section. Either one works. Please jump into the discussion. We want to hear from you. And one last thing, like Amira said, there's lots to be filled in, so feel free to jump ahead a little bit. And if you're watching this later as an archived video, feel free to go ahead and add to the Etherpad. We want to continue the discussion after today.
Nice, thanks, Christina. So we actually had a lot of community members from various parts of the world who are teaching or educating or working with women in STEM-related projects or specifically with teaching the web. So when we were setting out to start this call, we had so many people that were like, oh my goodness, these programs are fantastic. And so we've actually gone through and picked some of our community members who we really wanted to bring on this call and who had some really interesting projects that span a great spectrum. So this is a portion of the larger community, but this is definitely a portion that I admire and the work that they're doing that I think is quite fantastic and has a lot of learning and experiences and best practices that are around for a global community to share and learn from. So I'm going to go ahead and actually introduce our first speaker of the day. We do range from a variety of locations. So we've got New York in the house, we have Arizona in the house, we've got all the way to K-Town in the house. We've already identified that we have a time difference of us and our speakers between like 10 hours. So I'm sure there's a very diverse group here. I'm going to jump right in and introduce Anthony to share with us a little bit about his program and just what he's been doing and some of what he's learned along the way.
Well, thank you so much for having us. It's really an honor to be on this panel and sharing our work. And I really look forward to hearing some about the other projects. I had a chance to kind of take a look at what they were putting down in the Etherpad, taking a look at the links, and I'm really excited to hear from everyone. So our project our program was entitled Girls First Digital Studio. It's a 30-hour-long program that engages female youth in the design process using an open source virtual world platform called New World Studio. In this program or in this platform, they can kind of build, they can do 3D modeling, 3D design. During the entire course of their experience participating in the program, participants go through a series of design-based challenges where they learn various technical skills using the tool, using the software, and it also helps them kind of reinforce and continue going through the design process from brainstorming, doing some kind of concept art, doing the actual making and building of their 3D design, and then kind of finally having the opportunity to share their work. And we have different challenges from very basic homesteading, kind of building a very simple house structure, where we have set criteria of what they need to accomplish, but we really leave it open-ended so that they can kind of really put as much of their creativity and imagination into their work. As they kind of progress towards their final project, the final project is having them, it's really open-ended, where we have them build a 3D model or a 3D representation of something that they're very passionate about. And this is really contingent on what organization that they come from. And so during the first iteration of the program, we had youth from various organizations, from Coder Dojo, from Global Kids. A lot of Hive Network members were involved, and they came into NICI, and so they representing all these different organizations and having various interests and having a platform to kind of just share those interests with each other. And this program was really inspired from attending Emoticon. I have my Emoticon water bottle still with me from that event in 2013, I believe, and seeing a collection of youth from various organizations under one roof, really being together, sharing their amazing work, and really being proud about sharing that work. And so we wanted to build a program that kind of highlights that and maybe takes that potentially to another level. And definitely sharing all the opportunities that are available to youth in New York. So moving forward to the next thing, were examples of issues to expect, tips, and best practices. You know, it was interesting. So I was talking to my colleague Ray Ferrer, who is the digital learning curriculum developer at the museum and was kind of the lead facilitator of this program, and thinking like, you know, the experience that we created, we definitely knew and kept in mind our audience, but I think was an experience that, you know, we would do remotely similar to if it was an all-male co-ed experience. But we definitely thought about the fact that I was like, Ray, you know, it's two guys leading this program, and so we wanted to have role models, female role models involved, and definitely during the facilitation process. So we typically have explainers who are high school, college-age employees that work at the museum. I'm a byproduct of the explainer program, and they help out, assist during demonstrations, during workshops and camps. And so we had a cohort of female explainers that were involved and served as role models for this youth. And they were actually relatively close in age, so it's good to see someone like a year or 2 years older in this kind of facilitator role, and I think the students responded well to that. We also had female STEM professionals from various kind of industries come and share their experience, share programs that they participated at a young age, share their kind of future ambitions, what they're currently working on, and the participants of the Girls First Digital Studio program really responded well to that as in particular. Mostly highlighting like them talking about their experience as kind of younger girls and kind of all the programs that they participated in, and the girls who were like, oh man, they're participating in similar programs. So they were really inspired and kind of looking forward to their future ambitions as well. Let's see what else I had put down. Okay, any challenges? Yes. During the one of the initial challenges that we had is that for recruitment, we had a wide age range. We had girls ages 12 to 17. We had one 10-year-old involved during the first iteration of the program. She was super bright. And given that kind of really wide age range, there were some issues of kind of collaboration, sharing out with each other. But what was really interesting is that as time progressed, that some of the older students kind of acted as kind of mentors towards the younger students and kind of helping them kind of go through the process. And so there was a lot of things learned between the older girls and the younger girls, and a lot of really interesting things that flourished really organically, and it was great you know, seeing that happen. We even had girls who participated in our first program come back to our second program and kind of serve in more of a more engaged mentor type role. And so it was really awesome to see that as well. And some even applied for an explainer position. So some are currently working at the museum. Another issue that we ran into was that we wanted to, and this is something that we're still facing. So we're trying to set up a system where we can really see a lot of share outs throughout across different institutions, because we're at a phase of the program where we're deploying out the curriculum and training partners through various organizations to run it at their respective sites. Now this is a little different than kind of when we had it during the first iteration, where we had all those youth kind of collectively under the NYSCI roof. So we're still trying to kind of brainstorm ways to kind of you know, have opportunities to share out across institutions. But I don't want to take too much of the time, because I know I have one of our partners, Sarah Pooley, educator from the Girl Scouts, an organization that we've had the utmost, you know, a wonderful experience working with them on this project and other projects. So, Sarah, I'll shut up now and then give you the opportunity to share.
No, thank you for that, and we truly enjoy working with NYSCI. It's always such a pleasure. I think for us, one of the biggest challenges really took place at the beginning, and it was getting girls to actually share what their projects were and how they were coming along. A lot of the times the girls were a little bit modest and didn't really want to show off what they were doing. But that quickly changed when we had it over the course of a week, well, 5 days, when the girls had their midwinter recess here in New York City. And by Tuesday or Wednesday, they were like, I want to share, I want to share. And what was really cool, too, was seeing how the girls were also celebrating each other's accomplishments and the other girls' designs. So even when somebody was maybe a little hesitant to share the object they had created or the homestead they had created, somebody was right there next to her saying, oh no, you have to see this fabulous tree house that so-and-so designed. And that was really great to see the girls really celebrating each other's designs and encouraging them to share. Again, like Anthony said, we also had a range of ages, and I have to say it actually didn't pose too much of a problem. The girls just really understood everything so quickly. And I think, you know, maybe it was the instructors that took a little bit longer to understand how it worked. But, you know, the younger girls, they got it right away. They were blowing us away with what they were able to do and accomplish, and we were extremely proud. And we were able to bring in speakers. We had Lara Hogan, the senior engineering manager from Etsy come in to talk about her background in design and talk about sometimes being the only female in the room. And the girls really learned a lot from it. And I was really glad that Anthony and Ray had incorporated that into the program, really bringing in the speakers to be mentors and role models for the girls. And it was truly wonderful, a really great experience. And that's it on my end.
Thanks, Sarah. I love how, Anthony, you were able to create this program, and then, very quickly after, Sarah, you were able with Girl Scouts to really take that program and adapt the model and to, further have greater impact with that, which I think is fantastic. There are a lot of questions for you from the community members. So I'm going to ask one quick one, and then I'm going to encourage you to jump into the Etherpad, both of you, to answer the questions that are there right now. And so one of the ones I really want to ask is, so how do you coach these explainers or leaders or role models to really participate in the program? What sort of tips and facilitation and best practices do you share with them so that they can come in as leaders and really know how to facilitate learning with these young girls?
Yeah, we're in a very lucky situation where the explainer leadership team that works with the explainers kind of prep them ahead of time. So some of these girls that were the explainers that were involved in our program have already had at least a year, 2 years experience working with youth of all different ages and engaging them in STEM-related activities. So it was very little assistance and coaching that we needed, but that's more to attributed to the wonderful work that they do in the explainer program. So I'm not going to take any of the credit. A lot of those girls, they knew when to interact with the students, knew when to kind of help us troubleshoot different things, and so they were kind of a blessing to work with.
Sarah, do you have anything to add before we move on to our next speaker? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you both so much. That was really a great overview and very encouraging. So thank you for sharing. And next we have Jennifer Velez, who is representing ASU on behalf of Dr. Scott, who is unable to join us this morning. But Jennifer, we're looking forward to hearing more from you about CompuGirls, which is a year-long or offers year-long programs, summer programs, and after-school programs where participants, young girls, usually grades 8 through 12, can test latest technologies in digital media, game development, and virtual worlds. So Jennifer, feel free to tell us more about that.
Sure, thanks so much. So as you mentioned, CompuGirls is a what we like to call a culturally responsive computing program for girls, middle school and high school girls, funded by a generous grant from the National Science Foundation. Right now we have, well, I should back up, and so we're actually part of the Center for Gender Equity in Science and Technology here at Arizona State University. The center has 3 arms, one of which is advocacy, which houses the National STEM Collaborative, which is a group of, I think we're up to 27 organizations, universities, and nonprofits that are committed to transforming the pipeline for women and girls of color in STEM. The second arm would be our knowledge arm, which is our research arm. And CompuGirls feeds into that research arm because we do data collection from all of our participants and teachers that go through the program. So the third arm would be capacity, which we programs like CompuGirls that try to bring more girls and women of color into the STEM pipeline. So in terms of CompuGirls, it's been around since 2007. Dr. Scott actually started it when she was, I believe, a graduate student with the Girl Scouts, actually. And so it was, in its earliest form, it was a program that had a parenting component, a mentorship component, and a technology component. And when she joined Arizona State University, she kind of took that technology piece and created CompuGirls. So the CompuGirls approach is really looking at the girls themselves and recognizing that their identities are multifaceted, and understanding that yes, they are a girl, but they may also be Latina or African American or Native American, and then in addition to that, they may be poor, or they may be, you know, an older sister in a huge family, and helping the girls kind of work through their own identities and recognizing that those layers can actually be sources for assets. So how do we look at ourselves and yes, recognize that yes, we come from an impoverished area, but then what are the characteristics that we can draw from that we've learned from those experiences that can then help us one day? So in that way, we are culturally responsive, and it's really looking at technology as a tool as a means to deliver social justice education. So the girls delve into a social justice topic of their choosing. They conduct research, and then they develop a technology product based on that social justice topic. So for example, in course 1, they would develop a digital story on a social justice topic of their choosing. In course 2, which is focused really on computational thinking, they use Scratch to create an animation or a game of some sort to deliver their research on that social justice topic or a new topic if they choose to do so. We also use Virtual World in our 3rd course, where the girls can do some 3D design. And then the 4th course is our newest course. It's actually currently in its pilot phase, and it's co-robots. So using humanoid robots to kind of look into better ways to maybe navigate academia or the STEM workforce. A lot of the projects that we see coming out right now are you know, developing a robot that can conduct an interview without implicit bias, right? Because a robot doesn't see those, it doesn't see you, it doesn't see your layers, they just see kind of your skill set. Another one of our ideas is that we believe any girl can learn to code, any girl can develop tech skills, but the unique needs of girls of color is what we're really aimed at addressing, and really helping them so that once they have those skills, they then have the tools and the assets to navigate academia and the workforce, so that they can then overcome obstacles like microaggressions and implicit bias in the workforce. The program, like you mentioned, is very, very malleable. We do have it in summer program form with 2 to 3 weeks at a time. We've done 1 week intensive courses. We actually have a couple of schools that are doing it as an elective course right now. Sadie Nash in New Jersey is doing it as a Saturday program, so the girls are coming in for 3 hours every Saturday for the semester. And then we have schools that do it as an after-school program. We have school sites that we partner with here in Arizona, Denver, New Jersey, as I mentioned. Oakland will be starting back up again soon, and then we're actually in the works right now to take it internationally. So we're looking at bringing it to Ireland this summer, which brings a whole new dynamic. In the U.S., we're facing issues of race and class. There are different issues when you look into different countries, so that's going to be a new adventure for us to kind of work with Dublin City University to kind of determine what are the different issues that are faced by is it girls of color there, or is it girls of different ethnicities, of different classes? So what are the different issues that are faced in different cultures, and how can we kind of modify CompuGirls to address those unique needs of the girls there? Some of the the things that we've kind of had to really remember and focus on is that it is about the girls in the end, and it's about addressing their unique needs and making sure that they are equipped to be successful. And then also really providing quality professional development for teachers, and not assuming that they're automatically going to get culturally responsive teaching practices, or even recognize the need for it. So really approaching it with the educator space in mind, and understanding where they're and really kind of allowing them to delve into their own identities, so that they can then greater appreciate the identities of the girls that they're serving. Some of the challenges that we faced is, we are all over the place, and so creating an online learning community has been a bit of a challenge, and the online training course definitely is something that we are working on improving, because we want an online experience to be as close to an in-person experience as possible, or at least content-wise as rich as an in-person experience. So those who are able to attend in person have found the experience to be far more valuable than those who have just done the online training. So we're working on improving that. And then the question always comes up, well, we've graduated from CompuGirls and these girls are done, well, what now? And so kind of working on maintaining that connection, and and not only for the purposes of tracking them, where are they now? What are these girls doing now? But also in terms of what are their continuing needs, and how can we provide support systems for them? So how can we put them in touch with mentors? How can they be a support system for one another? What are resources that we can provide in terms of getting into college, and workforce development and career readiness and that kind of thing, and helping them learn how to put together a resume, and how can we build those kinds of things into the program as well. So I see someone typing up a question. Oh, yeah, what happens to the girls after they finish the program? Yeah, that's just something that we're still kind of working on, building that alumni network. So as far as some questions down here. Can I share the curriculum? Is there anywhere we can see the PD you provide and content you offer through it? So if you go to cgest.asu.edu, that is our website, and you can connect with us through that website. And we'd be happy to share with you resources that we have. Like I mentioned, we are creating that online community, and what we are envisioning it to become is a place to share not only the CompuGirls curriculum, but also to share resources. So what are the materials that teachers are developing on their own, and how can we then make those available to others as well? Because teachers are very interested in sharing what they have and are very interested in learning from one another. So yeah, if you go to our website and definitely reach out to us, we will be happy to chat with you further.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer.
Sure.
I'm just going to call out one more question, if you don't
Yep.
mind answering
Not at
before
all.
we jump along on our agenda. But on line 151, Julia asked a really great question. Have you tried anything to develop pathways for students, or partnered with other local CS programs to help progress their learning?
Great question. We are actually working on that. So we've been talking with New York Academy of Sciences, because they have a great mentorship program there called 1,000 Girls, 1,000 Futures. So we are working on becoming one of their partners, because they provide mentorship 24/7 around the world via the internet. So by becoming a partner with them, then our girls would have access to mentors at New York Academy of Sciences. And that's just one of the mentorship programs that we're working on right now. In terms of here in Arizona, at Arizona State University, we have access to one of the largest engineering programs in the country, in the world. And so we've actually, through the Co-Robots program, we've been working with a program called Engineering Projects and Community Service, which is actually out of Purdue, that we're using at Arizona State University, and EPIC students have been working with our Co-Robots participants in developing out their products in terms of meeting the needs of the community and turning it more into a service-oriented project. So in that way, we are making those connections, but we still have a lot of work to do, yeah, in terms of support systems for the girls beyond CompuGirls.
Nice, thank you, Jennifer.
Sure.
If you haven't seen CompuGirls Co-Robots, it is definitely something worth checking out. And they are really fun, as I've had the experience of playing with your robots before.
Oh,
And
yay.
they're just very interactive and really fun for all ages to jump into and learn from. So thank you. There's tons of
Sure.
questions still in the Etherpad, so feel free to jump in and answer them there as well.
Okay, you bet.
Thank you. I am most excited to introduce our next speaker, who's coming and joining us all the way from South Africa. I've had the pleasure of getting to work a lot with Baratang recently and learn more about her work. So she's going to share some of the work she's doing as well as what she's doing now with one of our programs, Mozilla Clubs. And so I'm going to pass the torch. Baratang, take us away.
Hi, I'm Baratang Mia from Cape Town. I'm the founder of Girl Hype, an NGO that I started in 2002 to empower girls in STEM. So it started as us having conferences for girls, and we'll have like a 2-day conference where girls will come and learn either robotics or do some science experiments and learn something like, that time it was front page, and design something on front page. And it grew to a point where we then started teaching girls how to design websites, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Java. And till this day, we still keep that because it's the core of our program, where we want girls to produce their own content. And the most fascinating part about it is that there's a school that we partner with where girls learn Java in school. So those girls tend to go into computer science as they finish the program. So we like mentoring them so that they don't end up finishing or failing in school or their marks dropping, because we work with kids from really disadvantaged backgrounds of Cape Town. But the most exciting part about our program is now that we've joined Mozilla, and we now part of Mozilla UN program. We're starting 5 clubs where we're going to be teaching web literacy in our communities. And the strategy that we followed is to put 5 different clubs. One being anyone who's a woman who thinks they want to learn how to code, a girl age 9, or you just want to join that club, you want to learn how the web can help me. And then we've got 2 business clubs, and purely because I've worked in the startup environment and I knew what are the challenges that are facing women there. Most women, especially in South Africa, go into business and they don't know the opportunities in the web space, and they don't even know the opportunities that technology can offer them. Some are in the business, but they don't know how to take it further. And the other 2 will be girls clubs, where it's a continuation of what Girl Hype is doing. So we do competitions. The girls will design apps with Technovation. The girls will design their own apps, taking issues around their own community and maybe build an app around that. And we use different curriculums. We've used loads and loads of Code Academy and Mozilla WebMaker before. So we keep on trying to find anything that's online, because we've never had our own curriculum writer. We've always tried to find what's available on the open source and use it for the girls. What are the challenges? Most of the girls come from what we call previously disadvantaged background. So most of them will have either a smartphone, but something similar to a smartphone. So it's like that's all the computer they can ever experience. So because we meet once a week, the only time they have time with a computer is the 2 hours that they spend with us. So we spend too much time going through curriculum and content at a very slow pace. And even the internet access, okay, now Western Cape is like, yay, we've got a better internet. But that was a bigger challenge, because most of the time the internet will be slow at home, or they won't have it at all. The only time they see internet and a computer is when they come to our clubs. And our clubs used to be based in business places. But now with schools' internet having improved, we've now partnered with 3 other schools. We're moving into more schools as we roll out the program, that we rather have girls in their schools, because the internet is now getting better. They must understand how the web can help them in their academic and to understand the world around them, like, start your own business, do Technovation, and do other programs. Most of the time we have to transport them to the point of where the classes are happening, because it's not safe where they come from. if they go to a library or if they come to our school, it's a bit of a long traveling distances. And because we do the clubs in the after school, when they leave, it's getting darker. So we try very hard to try to provide them with transport to get closer to home. Even though we don't drop them at home, we drop them at closer to home points. And that's even food, because most of them are on a school feeding programs. So when they come to us, the lunch they've had, it's that lunch they had at school. Now they know that there's another lunch at Girl Hype, which might be the supper at the same time. But we keep it up. We've had support of lots of people around us that really made the program what it is for all these years. We've had so many partners that I can talk about. We've had mentors coming from University of Cape Town, mentors coming from University of Stellenbosch. Our universities around Western Cape have always provided lots of mentors. We mainly focus on women as mentors. We try to avoid men, and not that we've had men, but we try very hard to avoid them. Not that it's a blocking. It's purely because in our setting, we come from a setting where very few Black women in South Africa are holding those positions. So at our mentors, we don't say it should be a Black woman or whatever. As long as you are a woman, we don't care where you come from. As long as you can come and show that it's possible for a woman to do it. And we try very hard also to address the social injustices that they go through by giving them smaller challenges, and then they build apps, or they build a website, or they build a story around whatever they think it's an issue that's happening around their community. Anything I said, my thingy went off now. My Etherpad went off. I'm saying everything from the top of my head. Unless there's any other questions.
I can help you there, Baratang. What are some of these social issues that women and girls are facing in the areas that they're trying to develop products or programs or apps or any of their projects around?
You see, we have an issue of language as a barrier, but that's not a bigger challenge. But language is the biggest barrier in South Africa. And like I said, 90% of the time, the only computer they have is that cell phone, or they compute when they come to our clubs. The other thing is we have a cultural barrier where people are not taught certain issues you can't talk about. And those are the issues that are really impacting women. I'll give an example of women's health issues. You can't talk about such things. And to get women to understand that it's a social issue that's impacting you, if we're going to talk about sanitation of women, you're the first person who has to speak about it. So there's codes and words that women use to say certain things, and it's cultural. It's not because the girls don't want to talk about it. It's because it's just one of those things where if you say it loud, people look at you very badly. So women's issues are issues that are still very silent. And because they are so silent, we have to teach them we have to be the ones saying them so that they get comfortable with saying words like that. You can't say, a girl wouldn't normally say, I'm having my periods. They will say, I am something. And you have to figure out how that is going to impact on them. So though we're teaching literacy clubs in terms of computers, we try very hard for them to understand that you need to build your confidence. There's no confidence at all. We need to also provide, like most of the domestic chores are still done by girls. Some of the girls, in the past, we used to start our clubs when we do Saturdays or school holiday program, we used to start at 9 o'clock. We now have changed it to 10 o'clock, and purely because the girls will arrive late. And we realize later that no, they have to clean before they leave the house. And they are the ones who's taking care of the brothers, they are the ones who's taking care of the sisters. And because of we've got areas that we call squatter camps in South Africa. That's where most people, it's like shacks, and there's people would be sharing loads of things. So before you get to transport, you would have crossed and walked a long distance. So even for us to get to those areas, it becomes unsafe. So we drop them far. Though we're picking them up, we still pick them up. Now, 2 hours for the program. For someone who understands, you might teach HTML in about 4 days. For us, it might take us 2 months or a week, whole week with them sitting there and just learning HTML, because we try very hard to make sure that it's not only about technology, it's them breaking up from their own circle and understanding that the circumstances that I'm in are not meant for me to be there. And how can you use, it's not about building apps. It used to be about building apps. And then we realize even if they build the apps, if they are not comfortable with saying those issues themselves, how do we make them come? So we do a lot of media literacy. I was looking for the better word. We do a lot of media literacy in the process of trying to get them to understand that those issues were put into our heads and we can always get them out.
That's a
I'm
lot
not
of
sure
issues.
if I'm making sense.
No, that's great.
Yeah,
That's a lot of issues, and I actually really like how those issues were very different than some of the ones we've heard already in the call, because it really shows the breadth of the variety of people and programs and locations we have here. So thank you. I do have one more question, and then we're going to switch on down and ask you to jump into the Etherpad. And there are a lot of people offering their curriculum, because you mentioned that you don't create your own, so there's people inviting you to share and use theirs. My question really is around, how do facilitators and mentors, what do they need to do to ensure collaboration and co-sharing or mentoring between women and girls in these learning settings? So how do we really facilitate those actions and that really encouraging young girls or women to really collaborate, teach each other, mentor and support each other in those settings?
What I've learned before is that mentors come from different stages of life. So when we have students as mentors, they can relate more to the girls. The age gap is not that huge, and what they talk about is easier for them to talk about. As like sometimes if let's say we start about issues that are affecting women in the community, and we do a media education where they have to talk about the challenges that are facing at home. It's easier for them to relate to someone who is at their age. If I say it, they still see a mother figure, and they still see an older person who they're not willing to share with. South African girls are you have to take a while to open them up to start talking about their issues. So it's one of those things where we've learned over time that you have to open up yourself, make yourself a bit vulnerable to say, listen, this is what I went through, this is who I am, this was my journey to get where I am today, for them to be able to say, okay, I can relate to this person and I can do that. And also the other thing is it's patience. Some mentors come, and when I work with University of Cape Town students, most of them are really high articulate people who don't, though they live in South Africa, they don't understand issues of South Africa. So they will come and they will run these workshops, finish a workshop and say the girls were quiet, they didn't understand anything, they weren't talking to me, and I don't think they can relate, and I don't think, and they will punish themselves to say that I think they will make it about them. And I always say to them, listen, it has nothing to do with you, it has everything to do with the people that you are teaching. So make sure that next time you come, do not start and jump right into the curriculum. Make exercise. We get these icebreakers, and I know people have offered me lots of icebreakers that come from the internet. We've stopped using those icebreakers. We've created our own South African type icebreakers where we know that the girls are, let's say, for the first week you can write a poet. For the first week you can write about yourself, but write in a manner that is so simple that that you feel comfortable, and we make something out of it. So don't make it, I tell students, don't make it about yourself, because it takes time for them to feel comfortable to say, you know what, we trust this person and we trust this curriculum, and it's a safe space. Computers are not how do I put it? It's not a bigger thing in schools. It's not I need to be able to achieve this because it's going to take me somewhere. People still don't know what is coding. So we'll spend, some girls will get there and someone will say, today we're learning coding, and you're looking like, I know one of the facilitators once said, Google it, Google is your friend. And I wasn't there. So one of the girls came back to me and said, I don't have a friend called Google. And I said, I understand what they are trying to tell you, but what they don't understand is that there's so many injustices that had happened in the past that kept Black people in communities where it's just them and their social issues. And for you to come into that space and say, listen, this is what I can offer you, it has always been a receiving end. Okay, offer us and we receive, and that's fine. Now we are coming into your space and we're saying, listen, this is what we can offer you and this is how you can use it, but now tell us how you want to use it and how we can play a role in your life. And that is the biggest challenge, because now you want them to be thinking and you want them to be telling you about, they're used to being told what to do. It's a different ball game. So you need to now all of a sudden change the ball game and say, guys, I'm here, this is what I know, this is all I can offer, what I know, but I want you guys to be part of what I'm doing and tell me how I can go forward. And I always say, if you write a curriculum and give it to us to read, because I can relate more to those girls than anyone else. Give me time to adjust the basics of it. If we do Java, it's not about the Java that I don't understand. It's the logical concept, the basics concepts that the academic education did not cover, because the education system is very, very poor. So if you expect someone to think whilst they're closing gaps and you don't understand, like one time one of the facilitators said, I don't understand why people wouldn't understand what is a half made out of a half. And I said, because they were teaching, I'll use something that's very familiar. They were using a time, and they couldn't understand why the kids didn't understand the basics of where time originated from. And I said, you must understand our education system was very, very bad. So somewhere, if you see that there's a gap there, fill that gap. It's not for you to come and make it about yourself, because that's what we do, as most mentors do, that they tend to make it about themselves and say, this is not what we're achieving, this is what we planned, the kids are always late, the girls, because you're dealing with very fragile girls who are going through their own loads and loads of issues, especially in Girl Hype. There are programs in Western Cape that focus on different types of girls, but at Girl Hype we focus on girls who are going through, some of them are how they're heading households. They leave the program, go home and be a mother. Some of them are carrying their own issues. They have to take medication at a certain point in time because I'm HIV positive or I have this. So those things, you have to filter them into the program. If you see someone keep on disappearing on the program, it's not that they're disrespecting you. Try to understand the environment first. I think I'm not sure if I made sense.
Yes, and you are getting, when you log back into the Etherpad, you will see you are getting all kinds of love on the Etherpad. So definitely go back and check that out. There's lots of questions and comments that you can respond to on your own time. And thank you so much for sharing your experience. It's been really encouraging and motivating. So thank you for joining us. And as we kind of head towards the end of our discussion, we want to have a very brief open discussion about the programs for women and girls that you following along on the Etherpad have to offer, your experiences. So starting in line 212 on the Etherpad, you'll see a few questions there. Please answer them, give us all of your insight. We want to make this a collaborative effort and discussion. And then for our speakers that are live with us on air, I thought maybe we could just pick one of these questions to briefly discuss. So the second question is, how do you change your teaching techniques when working with all girls? Do you have any experiences or tips or challenges with that? And Sarah, I don't know if you would be willing to kind of give us your thoughts on that, but if you are, then please jump in, and then anyone else that has any insight, feel free to discuss.
I can
Or,
start us off.
thank you, Ramir.
So I was actually I was busy writing this in the Etherpad, but what Baratang said in creating safe spaces for people, she mentioned safe spaces in two ways: safe, like traveling, and then safe spaces within events. When I run events for just women and girls, I really actually emphasize and focus on how to create safe spaces from the get-go, so that it is a very collaborative, sharing environment, and then women and girls are there in a way that they can support each other. And to another point that was made earlier, like celebrate each other. I think Sarah was mentioning that, the really emphasizing, celebrating each other's achievements and what they've been able to do. So that's something that I've really done in the past. And there's actually a guide on line 228 on the Etherpad, and I'll put it here in the chat too, but it has some tips on, how do you create safe spaces to start your events. So if anyone's looking for tips, those are ones that I have. But if anyone has any ones to share, I'd love to hear them too. So I know our speakers have addressed like many of these questions already, but I might call on a couple of you if you don't mind, just to flush some of these out, and if you have any resources. But what did so Jennifer, I'm just going to ask you, because I love ASU and how you've been able to teach women and girls in this very open way. But is there any sort of challenges that you faced that you didn't already address that you want to add here? And just like, what do you do to overcome those?
Sure. I mean, I guess maybe getting to some of the questions that are already listed there. I think you're right. One of the interesting things that happened. So we sometimes get resistance to this idea of being all girls, especially school districts. Always bring up that well, we can't be restrictive. And we are usually able to figure out a way around that where, if you're going to offer it as an elective course, you don't have to be restrictive. You can open it up to everyone. Like, for example, we now have a lot of, not a lot, but a handful of transgender girls that have joined the program. And so making sure that the course is offered and open to anyone has been important for school districts to make sure that they're within their, policy guidelines and federal law. But what we have found is that when we have offered an out-of-school time program that was mixed gender, we actually had experience with this in the fall, that interesting things happened. Girls who had been in the program previously and were kind of the rock stars and leaders suddenly took a back seat. And so throwing boys into the mix really kind of negated all of the work that had been previously done to build up and excite these girls, and to really, that had all the work we've done to empower them. And so I think sometimes we are still having to remind people of the importance of that safe space for girls, and how girls helping other girls and girls empowering other girls is really important, and making accommodations for that and letting that happen and letting that be a thing, I think is just, we're constantly reminding people of that. And that was very surprising for me. I've only been in this role for a couple of months, and I just am always shocked by people who are resistant to the idea of focusing on girls, and even girls of color. We get a lot of, well, why girls of color? Why not white girls and things like that? And so we then have to pull out the research and that shows the disparity, and yes, there is an issue with girls in STEM, but there is a much larger issue with girls of color in STEM, and it's so for that to have to constantly kind of have that in your back pocket and be able to share that with people has been really important. So.
Thank you.
What I wanted to say is that one thing that I've also learned is that there's technical side of issues and the social side of issues. So if you teach girls, don't compromise on the technicalities. We've never compromised our technical content so that they should be easy. We make it easy for them. No. We try very hard to make sure that they get the same standard that anyone else would get, even if it means us putting a lot of effort. There's lots of women who really come and help and put their time into that. And I wish my friend could log in. She's been trying to log in. She can't get in. Zimpita Bua is a very good supporter of ours. She's the technical person. I'm not a technical person. I studied social science. I know social issues. I'm a self-taught coder, so I can know up to so far. But when it comes to being very technical, and I want the girls to understand the technical aspect, I bring those technical people to come and play their role. And they're always willing to do it. And we don't compromise that, because it would be injustice for us to say we only focus on teaching them and achieving their confidence level, their coding level, and whilst when you put them out there in comparative to someone who says, I know HTML, they can't speak the way they do. I know some of our girls, especially because if I put them next to anyone who said I've learned Java, they know everything. They've really put a lot of hard work there. And the technical side of things, it can never be compromised. That is just, it's like studying mathematics. You can't compromise, you can't change it. It's there. I can only work around getting those girls to be part of STEM, to be part of computing, to be part of, and those are the issues that takes time to work around. And those are the issues that makes girls to feel like we don't let them get away with anything. So it doesn't mean because I have problems, every week we're going to listen to your problems. There are rules and regulations in the program, and you have to live by them. We will give you support. We'll talk to your parents. If I have to drive to your parents and do some other extra things so that you end up being the best in what you do.
Nice. Baratang, I'm going to have to stop you there just because we're on time, but thank you for ending us on that fabulous note. There is a lot in the Etherpad, so if you are there, please continue to share your notes and ideas. And for those later, please continue to add, because the Etherpad and the video will still be available for others to view and contribute. I just want to do a quick shout out to our open ed resources that are near the bottom of this pad after line 232. There are many resources and teaching activities and curriculum that is available there that we have at Mozilla, as well as many that our community has been adding further down. So if you have some at your organization, or if you just know of other ones that are available, please do share to allow others to use and leverage and be able to integrate them within their programs. And just people like myself that are super curious to continuously learning how we can further develop this area. So early thank you, and please do continue to add there.
Yeah, and if you want to continue the discussion with us, we're actually having an all-day tweet chat on March 31st, which will be a continuation of this discussion, but also the one that started with our curriculum workshop earlier this month, so please join us there. We also have our next community call. All the events are listed on the Etherpad starting at 2:49, so feel free to check those out. And then if you have anything else to add, links, resources, programs, if you haven't already added them and they don't really make sense, up at the top of the Etherpad, and the very bottom there's a nonverbal section where you can add them there. So thank you again so much, all of our speakers. You guys have been awesome and inspirational and motivational, and we're so excited about just this discussion and all of the love that we felt on the Etherpad. So thank you, and thank you everyone for joining us in the Etherpad as well.
Yes, it's definitely colorful Etherpad. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Along with what Christina said, we just really appreciate collaborating on this topic with you this month. And we look forward to seeing you next month.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.